Hi guys, welcome back to our little cottage here on the river in the far north of Idaho. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I do when I completely mess up a baking recipe. And this video is really about kind of just keeping it real when it comes to making YouTube videos and making content, because sometimes things just do not go as planned. And even though you have everything planned out the way you think it's going to go, and then it just kind of all goes sideways. And so that's what happened with the making of this video. And I completely messed up this recipe. It was just one of those mornings where I just kind of felt extra tired and felt like my brain was kind of all over the place. I felt kind of flustered. And at the same time, I was trying to feed my sweet little almost 1-year-old. And so it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those mornings. And so here I'm starting out by mixing together the flour and the baking powder and the salt, but then I completely forgot to put in the sugar. And so I put in the milk and the egg and started mixing those together and didn't realize I hadn't put the sugar in the recipe yet. And so I started mixing these together, and then I added in the chocolate chips because these were going to be kind of a mixed berry chocolate chip scone. And so I thought, okay, let's throw in the chocolate chips now. And then I realized I hadn't put in the sugar. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to add the sugar right now, and started mixing that all together. And that was fine, or I thought it was fine. And this is one of those like scone recipes. I always, start it with a wooden spoon, and then I move to using my hands. And then I realized I had forgotten to add the butter, you guys. So starting way back when I was mixing in the flour, baking powder, and salt is when you want to grate your cold butter into your flour mixture, and then use your hands to kind of rub it into the flour mixture until it's a nice crumb consistency. Didn't do that, totally forgot. So here I was like, you know what? I'm just going to mix the butter in right now. And this was the stage where I almost threw it away. Like I was so flustered at this point, and I thought, I have completely wrecked this recipe. There's no way this is going to work now. And I took a breath and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to press on and we'll see what happens. And so started mixing it together, mixing the butter in at this stage, and the dough was a little dry, so I added a little bit more milk, and the dough became way too wet. And so I don't know, because my plan for this scone recipe is I was going to be able to roll it out and cut out either a round scone shape or shape it into a round and cut it into wedges. I still hadn't quite decided how I wanted to shape these scones yet, but now the dough had become way too sticky. And so I tried adding a little bit more flour, and it just did not firm up. And of course I didn't want to add too much flour because I just didn't want it to taste too floury. So here I'm adding in the mixed berries, and these were frozen. So there was also extra juice that came out of these thawed frozen berries. And so it really started coloring the dough, which I knew it would. I think if I had had fresh berries, this might not have been the case as much, but anyway, I knew that was going to happen. And so I just started mixing this, what I felt like was a huge mess, together. And I forgot to mention that I had also, into the flour, I had zested one lemon. So the zest of one lemon had gone into the flour as well. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to be able to roll this out. It's too wet. So I said, you know what, I'm going to scoop these like a drop biscuit. And so I just used I think this was a 1/4 cup size ice cream scoop. It actually might be, I'm not exactly sure on the size. It might be, I don't think it's a 1/2 cup. But anyway, I used just a standard ice cream scoop, and I scooped these out onto a parchment lined baking sheet, and I had my oven preheating, I think at 350 degrees. And I decided, you know what, we're going to give this a go. And I'm just going to scoop them and drop them onto these cookie sheets and bake them. And we're going to see how they turn out. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how these scones turned out. And the berry juice did kind of make them a little bit of a funky color, and they weren't as pretty as I would have wanted them to be, but they were absolutely delicious. And so I think the moral of this little story is, even when you feel like you are just messing up a recipe, sometimes it's worth it to just press on. Just make some little tweaks here and there. You can even Google it. Like, you could Google whatever recipe you're making and say, what do I do when I've messed up this part of a recipe? And you might just find a really good tip or substitute that you can make. So yeah, I'm glad that I am in a place in my life where I am more patient when things like this happen, and I'm more resilient, I guess you could say. And so, yeah, that's my little bit of advice. Don't throw it away. Just do your best, tweak it, Google it, and you might just find that you create a wonderful recipe that you'll want to keep playing with. And so I am going to keep playing with this scone recipe until I get it exactly the way I want it. And then, of course, I will share it with you guys. And here I topped it with some of my Easy Mock Clotted Cream. And yeah, so here are the finished scones. So I really hope that you enjoyed this little video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, share with someone else you think would enjoy it, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.